We've returned from closed session, so we will reconvene this meeting. In closed session, we accomplished all right. We had 3.1 negotiations. The board may discuss negotiations or provide direction to its representatives regarding represented employees pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The board received information on this item. For 3.2, discipline, dismissal, release, or reassignment of public employee, Government Code Section 54957B1. The board received information, which brings us to 3.3, expulsion of student. 5-24.
Forgot the land acknowledgement and everything else. So go back to 6.1.
Thank you. 6.1, the land acknowledgement. We recognize that the Mount Diablo Unified School District sits on the territory of the Confederated Villages of the Lisjan, the ancestral and unceded land of the Bay Miwok and Northern Yokut, the successors of the sovereign Verona Band of Contra Costa County. As members of the MDUSD community, it is vitally important that we not only recognize the history of the land on which we learn, but also we recognize that the land we inhabit and learn on is the ancestral land of these people who are alive and flourishing members of MDUSD and broader Bay Area communities today. 6.2, you may stand for the pledge. All right, and so that brings us to 6.3, review and approval of minutes for regular board meeting held January 17th, 2024.
Madam Chair, I would make a motion, we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Thank you. That's a motion by Trustee Mason and a second by Trustee Mayo. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
And that motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. And that brings us to 6.4, review and potential approval of the agenda. Dr. Clark?
Yes, Madam President, I would like to move item 12.1, and I would like to move that to 9.0 following public comments.
Madam President, I move that the board approve the agenda by moving 12.1 to 9.0 as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. That's a motion by Trustee Mayo and a second by Trustee Mason. Trustee Barrios?
Yes.
And that motion passes unanimously with concurrence from our student board member. Okay, so this moves us to the report out of action taken in closed session. First was negotiations. The board may discuss negotiations or provide directions to its representatives regarding represented employees pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The board received information on this item. For 7.2, discipline, dismissal, release, or reassignment of public employee, Government Code Section 54957B1. The board received information. And 7.3, expulsion of student 05-24 from the Mount Diablo Unified School District.
Madam President, I move the board approve the expulsion of student 05-24. Prior to readmission, student 05-24 is required to meet the following conditions. The student must participate in 20 hours of counseling to address anger management and conflict resolution, show evidence of a successful school experience with no suspendable infractions, maintain a 2.0 GPA or better, and have a 90% attendance rate. The student must remain away from all MDUSD campuses and school activities, along with no violation of school rules and education codes 48900, 48915, or district rules and regulations, and attend the parent-teen anger management class at Loma Vista. And further, I move to suspend the enforcement of the expulsion of student 0524 with school placement to be determined by student services.
I'll second that.
Okay, so that's a motion by trustee Mayo and a second by trustee Count. And okay. And that motion passes 5-0. 7.4, expulsion of student 6-24 from the Mount Diablo Unified School District.
I move to approve the expulsion of student 06-24 and to suspend the enforcement of the expulsion of student 0624 with school placement to be determined by student services. And prior to readmission, student 0624 is required to meet the following conditions: participate in 20 hours of counseling to address anger management, racism, and hate speech, show evidence of a successful school experience with no suspendable infractions, maintain a 2.0 GPA or better, and have a 90% attendance rate. The student must remain away from all MDUSD campuses and school activities, along with no violation of school rules and education codes 48900, 48915, or district rules and regulations.
I'll second that.
The motion by trustee Nzewi and a second by trustee Mason. And that motion passes 5-0. That brings us to public comment. The public may address the board regarding any item not on the agenda at this point. Do we have any public comment at this point? No? Okay, so that should move us to 9.1, which is now going to be the staff report on the Yonder program at Olympic High School.
All right, Madam President, we are excited to welcome Courtney Lyons, who is the extremely successful principal over at Olympic High School. And she is here with staff and students, and they are going to share their journey with cell phone management, which is very exciting. It can also be a little scary as you think about it, and so that's why we have Courtney and students here, or Ms. Lyons and some students here, to kind of explain it to this board. So without any further ado, Ms. Lyons.
Good evening. My name is Courtney Lyon, and I am the proud principal at Olympic High School. And here with me, I have students and staff, Ilana, Isaiah, and Mr. Giordano, and they're going to provide some firsthand experience as well as we move through the presentation. So I'm really excited to have the opportunity to talk to you tonight because I think what we're going to show is the outcomes and impact on student learning from a truly collaborative process when you really get all stakeholders involved and you listen to the feedback. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about tonight. So I'd like to start by highlighting the relevance of this initiative to the district's LCAP goals and to our site SIPSA goals. And I know you know these well, so I'm not going to go through these all, but just even highlighting the first goal, right? As a district, we provide high quality education in a safe environment, and we have high academic expectations. That correlates to Olympic SIPSA goal number 1. Our students receive rigorous standards-based instruction. And we talk about that we're going to provide the resources that support that academic growth. And so, while I said I won't go into all of them, I do want to highlight that there was a lot of thought and intentionality when we first started this process. And so I had the opportunity to start at Olympic 2 years ago. And my background is with the comprehensive sites. And so I had a steep learning curve, and I really had to come in and listen to the students and listen to the staff and listen to the community and learn a lot about alt ed. It's a really, it's a different ballgame, and there's a lot to learn. And so initially we talked and I had to learn a lot about what are the most significant barriers students at Olympic are facing in not only accessing their education, but also claiming it for themselves and making it something that's meaningful for them. And so we did a lot there in the beginning. We reviewed qualitative and quantitative data. I sat with the staff and I tried to hear feedback on the barriers students were facing. We had a year after the pandemic, and we really had to look at how did our students return to us and what did they need? We held student focus groups and we talked to students, not specifically about cell phones, but just about the overall student experience. What was transferring to Olympic like? What did you perceive it was going to be? What do you wish that we offer at Olympic, or what do you wish that was offered at your comprehensive site that we may not have here currently at Olympic? And then, of course, talking about student mental health and struggles that they were facing in getting to school. From there, we tried to hone in our focus and look at a group of students, a subgroup of students who were attending regularly, but not earning credit at a credit recovery rate, right? And our goal is to get them to graduation and prepare them for beyond. So we honed in on this subgroup of students, and we held student empathy interviews with those students, and our community school coordinator reached out to their parents and did empathy interviews, and that provided really insightful feedback. I'm going to refer to this as a process because that's truly what it's been. It's been a 2-year process of talking and trying and gathering feedback. And so in August of 2022, when we came back to my first day at Olympic, we spent a lot of time talking about what staff saw last year. What were the barriers they were seeing in students making academic progress? And we also had to talk a lot. I had to learn a lot about the systems, right? What systems do we have in place? What are our processes? And from those conversations, we realized, hey, we don't really have a firm cell phone policy. And what I'm hearing is that we need something, right? Students came back and it was hard to let go of that autonomy with their cell phones. And so we as a staff generated a new cell phone policy, which just was a very simple, hey, students can't have their cell phones out during academic time. If that happened, an administrator would report to the room, confiscate the cell phone, and then there was progressive discipline from there. In September of 2022, we have an advisory every Wednesday. And so we did a lesson during advisory about the impact social media and cell phones have on teen mental health. And then we also solicited a feedback from students about the new cell phone policy and how it was impacting them. We have phenomenal therapists at our site, and they also provided some slides on coping strategies should students feel anxious without having that immediate access to their phone. So again, this is all before Yonder. In January of 2023, so during that time, we were talking about the cell phone policy. Administrators were responding to support calls, and we were trying to figure out if it was working. I have a great teacher who does reviews for model continuation schools. And he came back and he said, hey, I visited this site. It's really working for them. Let's talk about it. And so I reached out to Yonder and they sent a representative to our staff meeting to speak to the program. And from there, we did a survey with staff and said, hey, is this something, this would be a site-wide lift? Is this something we can all get behind? And staff resoundingly felt like this could be a great solution to some of the barriers we're seeing in the classroom. January 2023 through May 2023, we held a lot of student focus groups. Again, not solely about cell phones and Yonder, but more so just about the student experience, academically, culturally, the environment on campus. And then in April of 2023, during advisory, we presented the Yonder program to students. And there was a video that was, I think one of the local news stations did about a school that's already utilizing the Yonder program, and just gave the kids facts. And one fun fact is the average person will spend 22 years of their life on their cell phone. And so they were pretty floored by that. And then in May, we sent out a letter to parents in English and Spanish, letting them know, hey, we're looking to implement this policy. If you have any questions or concerns, come talk to us, come see us. Let's talk through this. In June, we piloted the Yonder program at summer school. So we thought, hey, let's do this with a sample size and see how it goes. And we'll collaborate after that and make any adjustments and changes. And then in August of this school year, at walkthrough, administrators sat at the walkthrough table where we handed out the student and parent compact. That way, if parents had any concerns, we could have that conversation right there at walkthrough and address that. And then in August, the beginning of this school year, we implemented site-wide. In September of 2023, we met as a staff, we refined and adjusted the policy, right? Because it's a bit different implementing site-wide. And then in September of 2023, we do a twice a year on-demand writing assessment. And so our on-demand writing assessment for the students this year was an argumentative essay, which Mr. G helped us facilitate, was an argumentative essay for or against the Yonder policy. And that was really insightful because, you know, what our scholars say with peers versus what they say in true reflection, it's a bit different. And then in November of 2023, I presented at our all staff meeting data that we were seeing for our first 3 terms of the year. And then during advisory in November, we also presented that data to students. And it was great because we had a lot of conversations. We didn't want to admit you guys were right, but how can we argue the numbers, right? So that leads me to some data. What you're looking at here are the average credits earned by term. The blue column is the average credits earned by term from the 2022-2023 school year. The red column is average credits earned by term from the current school year. And so, I'm sorry. Yes. So at Olympic, because we operate as a credit recovery program, we have 8 grading periods throughout the year. Those range from 4 to 6 weeks. And so the first 4 terms would equate to the first semester. And so what you're seeing is credits earned by students increased every term with the implementation of our Yonder program. Normally in term 3, that's kind of around November, the Thanksgiving holiday, we see this like seasonal slump and it could be due to many reasons, but we didn't see that this year, which was really exciting. And then, you know, we continue to see this upward trend in terms of credit acquisition for our scholars. At Olympic, we also love to celebrate students. And so we have credit crushers, and credit crushers are just students who are earning the maximum amount of credits per term. And so, again, in blue are the percentage of credit crushers from the previous school year, whereas red is the percentage of our scholars who are credit crushers during this school year. And so we're seeing a substantial increase in students earning the maximum number of credits each term, which is what we want to see because they need to not only acquire current grade level credits, but they need to be recovering those that we've lost. We're seeing consistent improvements by term with Yonder. And again, that seasonal slump that we always see in term 3, we almost doubled the amount of credit crushers that we have. So we were able to mitigate that kind of seasonal impact that we tend to see. Continuing with the data, what you'll see here are suspension days. So total suspension days by infraction. On the left is the column for the 2022-2023 school year. And again, we're just looking at the first half of the year. On the right, you'll see the column for the current school year, 23-24. What you'll see is total suspensions are down slightly. However, serious infractions are trending downward. What I mean by that are the warmer colors that you see there, the reds, the pinks, those are all suspensions related to violent infractions. The ones in the cooler colors that you'll see, the blues, the greens, those are, students possessing something on campus, cursing, things of that nature. So what I mean there, so total suspensions are down slightly, but serious infractions are trending downwards for us. This slide breaks that down a little bit more. So on the left, you'll see suspension days specifically related to violent infractions. On the left is the 2022-2023 school year. On the right is our current school year. And so what we are seeing is that violent infractions are down 32%. And we've increased efforts to that enforcement of those quality of life infractions. We're not having to deal with as much student conflict. So what are they doing in the bathrooms? The things of that nature. And what we're seeing is, and then what you see there on the right is our suspensions are trending up for some of those cooler colors. So profanity, possessing something on campus that they shouldn't necessarily have. And so to me, while those numbers are trending up, it's exciting because it gives us a new focus, right? Our violent infractions are trending downward. And so, but these infractions where I feel are more interpersonal are trending upwards. And so now as a staff and with my admin team, we're looking at, okay, we're having more interactions with students and we need to lean in there. We're going to start doing trauma-informed trainings for classroom practices, trauma-informed training for the admin team, right? So now that we get to interact with students more, we have to make sure that we're supporting the whole student in that time of stress, distress, and all of those sorts of things. So now what I believe to be the best part, we're going to have our staff and our scholars talk to you. So I don't know if you guys, I'll have Ilana start first.
Hi, my name's Ilana Carrier. I'm currently a senior at Olympic High, and I'm here to speak on behalf of both me and my peers with just the experience of being introduced to Yonder Bags and adjusting to something that we as students weren't accustomed to. So ultimately, our phone uses are an addiction at this point, and our attention spans aren't even the same as they used to be. So I don't think any of the students had nice things to say when it came to the Yonder Bags being introduced, but just after a few weeks of consistency, it felt refreshing to be able to come to school and just disconnect from the world for a couple hours and focus on both myself and my education. And so it's hard just knowing that we have to overcorrect just because of a habit that has gotten just out of control for so many students. But I think in order to achieve the life that we deserve and take full advantage of our opportunities, we have to put our education first. But I mean, with that being said, I think that Yonder Bags are definitely a step towards success. And if you guys have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer. But if not, thank you.
Hello, guys. So a lot of people didn't think the Yonder Bags were a good idea, but that's just kids with their phones. I hate to admit it, but they do work. They work. Because now you see a lot of kids focusing and getting their work done. What else? And I've seen a lot of more kids working than I have since last year when nobody, worked. And we're just getting the credits done. That's all I have. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dave Giordano. The Yonder Bags are something that we have wanted for a long time. And when I say we, I mean our staff. I think it was really, really smart that we rolled this out during summer school. Not as many students, smaller program. And the first day was really, truly something to behold. The students were banging them on the tables. They were trying to unlock them and open them. And many of the students went through withdrawals, being dead serious, real withdrawals. And it lasted for a day or two. After that, everybody, kind of got used to it and accepted it. And I think for teachers, we feel more respected, we feel seen, we feel heard. As you know, students are very sneaky with their phones. They're playing games, they're texting, they're watching movies, really, really out of line for a classroom, So we've seen that behavior curb. I think the students, like our students said this evening, that their mental health is better. They can focus. They like detaching and unplugging. Credits have gone up. The proof is in the pudding. And, something else that you can't see with data is the students talking to each other, the students sitting with each other, the students playing games with each other, the students helping each other with their work. And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we have had one physical fight all year long.
That is something, thank you. I meant to mention on the previous slide. So we have not had one physical fight on the Olympic campus this year, which is really exciting. So I also pulled some quotes from the on-demand writing assessment because I felt like it was important to be really transparent. Not every student is a huge fan of the program, but we work through it, right? You can sit and talk to people and you can come up with an amenable solution. And so, we have a senior, Ramona Flores, who talks about, just how she couldn't watch TikTok and Instagram. But then she says, it was amazing. I saw people talking and laughing at each other. And then that last line, she says, this year I have made more friends than the last 2 years combined, which I think is a really, is even more unique because we pull students from all 5 of the local comprehensives, right? And so there really is that need to connect and figure out who's who and who's a friend. We have a really insightful scholar, a senior, Ozzie Hunter, and he feels really strongly about having a right to his possessions. And he says it makes him feel uneasy. It makes him feel frustrated with a boring or annoying task at hand. The mind either stills itself or does the complete opposite. And again, these are things that we are then able to talk about as a group, as a staff with our students. And then I pulled this last quote from our senior, Julian Flores, because I love the last line. We are also forced to socialize and talk to people, which I thought was great. The last slide I have here is just kind of a library of resources. We've had folks reach out to us. And so all of the things that I talked about in that timeline slide, the parent newsletters, the presentations to students, all of those sorts of things, the data I've just compiled here if folks want to take a deeper dive into that. And again, I really appreciate your time to be able to celebrate some of our exciting scholars and all the amazing things going on at Olympic. So thank you. I also brought, I don't know, it's kind of like Shark Tank. I don't know if you want to see the product, but we brought a sample too if somebody wanted to see it. The other thing I will point out is we have a couple of particular students who really, really struggle for whatever reason. We have one foster youth in particular who really struggles. Where there's a will, there's a way. There's Velcro pouches. So she still pouches like everybody else. And if there is that need for immediate access, we have a system in place so that she can come reach out to staff and have access to her phone in the appropriate time and place. So again, I really appreciate your time tonight. And if you have any questions for our team, we're happy to answer.
I just wanted to say I had the pleasure of visiting your site with the congressman last week, and it was really evident, and it made me very proud of, as a school board member, to have you representing us, that you took this step to go out and try this first. And I think the part that really resonated with me the most is the kids and the teachers saying they're talking to each other, they're laughing, they're getting to know more people. So kudos to all of you for putting this forward and coming here and sharing it with us.
I also went to the Olympic tour, and seeing the class like actually participate and pay attention to the teacher kind of made me jealous because at my school everyone's on their phone and not looking at the teacher, and I feel like embarrassed for my school that like we're here to learn but everyone's just on their phone, so I'm jealous that you guys have that.
I have a couple of questions. I appreciate your presentation and I'm excited to hear this. Some other parents across the district are aware of this and ask me a couple of questions. One of the questions was, do you, and perhaps this is best for the students, although you may want to address it as adults, do you believe that this program would be better, or not be better, but be enhanced if it were at the middle school also, so that students develop good habits around phone use earlier?
I think as of right now, just because a lot of people in middle school are coming straight out of quarantine and we're really exposed to phones and just being on technology, I think it is something good to implement just because those habits are forming and middle school is right next to high school. So, yeah.
And then the other question was the expense. I understand there's to replace a bag, it's $50 if it's broken or lost. Is that true? Or how does that, the checkout of the bags work with students?
That's a great question. So we check them out at walkthrough and we treat it just like any other district property. So the bags are numbered. So we have a spreadsheet of what number was checked out to what student. And when they sign the compact, it says, you know, if I break it or if I lose it, I am responsible for paying for the product.
Okay, thank you.
And we have had some students lose it or break it. One student, it was under clothes in his room. He accidentally stepped on it. We have extras. So it's, you know, there's leeway with everything.
Thank you so much for the presentation. The thing that struck me most is the methodical and intentional way you built community around this, and that it was a year process before you jumped into it, and that everyone was involved, as it seems, all along the way. And that building of community is something that I feel is like missing it in my, as a parent in my own school that I'm at. I'm curious around the empathy interviews. Like, were people trained to conduct empathy interviews, or do they just like how did that happen?
It was kind of a process. I held student focus groups when I first came to the site, just to glean insight into the student experience. So I would call those student focus groups. We did move into empathy interviews, and a lot of the questions were guided by the Book Street data. And there's some questions, some guiding questions there. And then as a team with our staff, we kind of molded those to fit really what we were trying to find out and what we were trying to gather from students and parents. So those were kind of our guiding questions. And then we molded those specific to our site and to our student demographic.
It's a great book. The other question, well, you wouldn't have the answer to this question, but the data are all, and this is a question I've asked of our data people too, the data are all compared to 21, 22, your comparison year. And I'm curious, I would love to see the data compared to the before times. So because this is the year coming out, like our first full good year out of the pandemic, which I think for many things is an unfair comparison because things were still not, we have a new normal, we'll say. But it would be interesting to see of all the metrics that you've used here today, what it compares to in the before times.
I agree. And now I'm interested. So I'm going to get it.
Thank you.
Okay. So thank you all for being here. It's really great to hear everyone's perspective on it, to hear from students, teachers, and admin. And I really like the way at the very beginning you looked at barriers to students' access, not only access, but also how are they claiming their education. And I think feel like that's really key to what we need to be doing at all of our schools. Um, and you mentioned the community school coordinator led the parent interviews. Is that related to the fact that Olympic is becoming a community school, like the way the state defines community school with that grant? Or is it the same position that all of our other schools have, like the parent liaison position?
That particular position is the community schools coordinator, which we're funding through our community schools planning grant right now,
Okay.
partially funding.
Right, right. Okay. So that's a position that's different than what we have at our other schools to some degree?
It's a different position, yes, but there is some crossover. There's kind of a Venn diagram there in
Okay.
duties.
Okay, okay. Thanks. Because yeah, I was thinking about the empathy interviews and the how you've really engaged the community, the students, the staff initially, then students and parents as well. And it feels like the community school model is maybe a good place to be able to do that from. Questions that I've heard in the community as well. One is when there's an emergency, what happens?
This one has come up a lot. So what's supposed to happen when there's emergency is students are supposed to listen to the immediate instruction of staff, right? So ideally, not having that phone is a great first response. If we're talking about an emergency situation, we need kids to go to a certain place, we need to get them in, hide them, whatever that may be, right? But these can be cut. They can be cut. So if they're in an emergency situation, I'm a parent, so if my kid is in an emergency situation, I want to know they're safe as well. Granted, mine are little, but if they were locked in a classroom, they would just cut them open. Yes, as our scholars can tell you, if you bang it a couple times, it can be easily opened.
Okay, so there is a plan for
Yeah,
emergency.
if you got a school picnic table or any desk, it can be done.
Okay. And then hearing from some other student perspectives, questions that I've heard from students are that there are ways that they use their phone currently, like at other school sites, right? Some schools use the Minga app as a way to, when you need to go leave your classroom for some reason, you have your hall pass through something that's on your phone, right? Or you use it to figure out where that club is meeting at lunch or where your friends are, at that crowded lunch place or something like that. I'd love to hear from students, like, how did that change for you?
Our school's small, so like we can it's very easy to find one of your friends, and like the classes are all like together. Like we have like it's like 8 classes outside, and then we have like 6 in the hallway. So like it's just really easy to find people at lunchtime. And we just use paper passes. We never used our phone for a pass.
Okay. Thank you.
I kind of disagree with the like on phone pass because I have a couple friends that do use that, and I think people should just be able to go to the bathroom. We have staff and security like all throughout the school, so if we're doing something we're not supposed to, they definitely come find us. But I feel like the pros outweigh the cons, so that's why I feel so strongly about it, just because I know that there is leeways with, just kind of bending the rules, but with the Yonder Pouch, it's kind of hard to do so. Like, you just get your day done. You know what I mean?
Got it. Thank you.
I think one thing to kind of piggyback off of what Ilana is saying is, like any policy, I would be lying if I said every student at Olympic had their phone in a pouch when they arrived at school. What it's done is make the policy very black and white. Some students don't pouch, but what they also don't do is have their phone out during instructional time. And so we went back and forth, like, do we want to monitor every entry and exit? Then we had to go back to what was the purpose of this program. The purpose was that students would actively engage during instructional minutes. Are they doing that? Yes.
I think that's really important, coming at it from the positive of what you want instead of coming at it from, we want to keep kids from doing this. And so saying, we want children to be doing this instead of we, and I think that's such a huge difference, and such a huge difference throughout our district in the way that schools approach, I don't know if the right word is discipline, but approach how the expectations we have of our adults and our students is more often the no instead of the yes, this is what we want. So I appreciate that you demonstrating how that shift can make a difference, even if everyone was pissed off, I think you said on the first day from having put the pouch on. But that probably helped move people even more quickly towards acceptance and then embracing, as opposed to this is a punishment.
And then lastly, I think the one comment that I heard too was, if we decide to expand this to our comprehensive school sites, the larger school sites, there was a sense that I heard from some parents and students that said, if we're going to do it, it should be district-wide, so that you don't have, oh, those schools are the yonder schools versus which ones aren't, and that kind of thing. Knowing what you know now, do you have any advice for any comprehensive schools that might be considering this?
Why wouldn't you want to have the phones pouched? You know, there are risks and concerns, but like Ilana said, the phone's an addiction. And I think data's still coming out. You know, we've only had these smartphones for the last 10 years or so. We don't know how it's affecting our brains. We don't know how it's affecting our kids' brains just yet. So my advice, and I also have a daughter in middle school, and she's on her phone plenty at home. You know, please take them away. You know, there's ways to contact your parents. There's ways to come onto campus. I'm forgetting your question now, but there's, like Ilana said, the pros absolutely outweigh the cons, and it's good for your mental health. It's good for their academics. It's good for their future.
Do you think that it's something that would need to be considered at a district-wide level, like do all the schools at once, versus that it's important for each school to do the process that you did of really walking through?
The process is important. And we did take our time. We took our time in individual classes. We had conversations with all of our individual classes. And at this point, I can't think of a reason why not to make it district-wide. I think it's good for everybody.
I have some comments and then a question too. Kind of what struck me is really the process that you went through with the school. I was thinking a lot about how kind of a lot of consequences or a lot of kind of procedures can be done to students. And I feel like what you have been doing is really with and for students, which is really a much better way to do things. So I appreciate that and the thoughtfulness. Then I'm also just kind of curious, like logistically, like how the pouches get locked kind of as students arrive and when they leave, just kind of like, if you can tell us a little bit about that, because I'm just, that part I'm not sure I know.
So when all students are responsible for their own individual pouches, they just place it in the pouch. It's a magnetic lock. And the expectation is that students, before they walk into first period, have their phone pouched. Our teachers check at the door during first and second period, and then late students check in at student services. And then on their way out on the green side, they just hit it on the magnet and it's open. The first day, I think it took like 7 minutes and 20 seconds for all of them to unpouch. The second day, they were done in 1 minute and 20 seconds. They knew how to, well, when they wanted to get them out, they got them out. So legit, and that was a part, again, talking about the process, that was a part of it, right? Trying it at summer school, what's working, what's not. We're looking at our access points and how do we want to handle this for our site. You know, we're lucky enough to work with a lot of older students. And so it really is kind of that real conversation, like, come on, man, you know, okay, I know. and then you go from there. But there is a lot to figure out logistically. I know some of the administrators visited some comprehensive sites in the Bay Area with Mr. Clausen, and they do it differently where they do random checks and the students have to have them on their desks and somebody comes through and checks them. And so, there's many ways to do it. Many ways to do it. And they really partnered with us. That's why they call it a program, because they thought partner with you and they have that experience at different sites, different age groups, different sizes of schools.
I think this has been just a topic of great interest, and kind of we heard from everyone, and just thank you so much for coming to present to us tonight.
I want to thank Isaiah and Elena. I'm your superintendent. I'm responsible for you all, and I come to work each and every day to serve students like you, and you both have made us extremely proud. I'm also very, very thankful for your leadership at the school. 21 years is a long time, and again, I want our students to know that, like, the things that we do, we're not doing them to you for some reason, some punitive reason. We're actually just trying to support you so that you can really be the best that you can be when you leave us. And so you both are seniors, and you've definitely represented the senior class extremely well in the Mount Diablo district. So thank you both for coming out tonight. Yeah, thank you. All right. So now we're going to distribute Yonder packs to all the audience members for the remainder of the meeting, and see if you go through those withdrawals.
All right. I'm fairly certain that we don't have any district organizations speaking tonight. No. Okay. So that should move us then to 10.1. Dr. Clark?
We have a resolution. Let me make sure here. Yep. We have resolution 24/24-44, authorization to submit a funding application to the Bay Area Air Quality Management District for the Carl Moyer bus replacement with supporting infrastructure grant. Mr. Lepe, do you want to make any comments on this or no? Okay, so I'm just gonna leave this resolution in the hands of the board.
Well, I'm always very excited about the opportunity for our zero emission school buses. So I'm happy to move to approve resolution 2324-44, authorization to submit an application for the Carl Moyer bus replacement with supporting infrastructure grant.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. That's a motion by Trustee Cowan and a second by Trustee Mason. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
And that motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. That brings us to 10.2.
Thank you, Madam President. In recognition of February as actually resolution 23/24-45, in recognition of February as Black and African American History Month, whereas the deep-rooted intrinsic value of Black and African American history presents our educational institutions with an opportunity for recognition, teaching, and celebration. And whereas Mount Diablo Unified School District recognizes and celebrates the history and contributions of Black and African Americans who have been previously overlooked, misinterpreted, and undervalued in the curriculum of public education. And therefore be it resolved that the Mount Diablo Unified School District Governing Board proclaims the month of February as Black and African American History Month and encourages all schools to commemorate this occasion accordingly with appropriate instructional materials, discussions, presentations, and projects. And be it further resolved that this resolution be distributed to all schools within the Mount Diablo Unified School District. Madam President, I'll leave this resolution in the hands of the board.
Any comments or a motion?
I'll make the motion. I move that we approve resolution 2324-45 in recognition of February as Black and African American History Month, in hopes that we have a joyful, eventful, and uneventful month in this district.
I'll second that.
Thank you. That's a motion by trustee Nzewi and a second by trustee Count. Trustee Barrios?
Yes.
And that motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. So that brings us to 10.3.
Yes, so here we have resolution 23/24-46 in recognition of National School Counseling Week. I'm not going to call Ms. Roberts up to do a presentation, but I will at a later meeting about the work of our counselors. So I will take this one. Whereas school counselors in their service to students and school communities bring a unique combination of skills, knowledge, and expertise in the interrelated areas. Sorry, I tried. All right. In the interrelated areas of educational development, social emotional well-being, college and career readiness, aptitude analysis, relationship building, trauma response, community partnerships, and more. Being now with timely significance, attentive to the manifestations of such by way to express gratitude, noting particularly that whereas school counselors contribute vitally to students' academic, social, emotional, and career development, helping students to progress and realize their full potential. So now, therefore, with due appreciation, the governing board of the Mount Diablo Unified School District hereby proclaims and recognizes February 5th through the 9th, 2024 as National School Counseling Week. Madam President, I now leave this item in the hands of the board.
Madam President, I move to approve resolution 23/24-46 in recognition of National School Counseling Week.
Second.
That's a motion by trustee Count and a second by trustee Barrios. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
And that motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. So that brings us to 10.4.
Great. Thank you, Madam President. I present to you resolution 23/24-47 in support of preliminary offer of facilities to Contra Costa School of Performing Arts for the 24-25 school year. And tonight, I'm going to have just be really explain this resolution and be available to answer any questions. We have John Ye. He's going to come to the podium, and he is from Burke, Williams, and Sorensen, and he will further explain this resolution. Thank you, Mr. Ye.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. Good evening, members of the board. John Ye from Burke, Williams, and Sorensen. So this resolution deals with a request for facilities from SPA Charter School for the upcoming 2024-25 school year. And the request is made under Proposition 39, which the board has dealt with before in other contexts. SPA, as you know, is authorized by the county board, but they are allowed to request facilities from the school district. So we have a legal deadline of tomorrow, February 1st, under the regulations to issue what's called a preliminary offer of facilities, which is an initial proposal of facilities. And as you may know from our past work, we will bring to you sometime in March a final offer, which has a deadline of April the 1st. So under the regulations that govern charter school facilities, if the school district places the charter school on more than one school site, it must pass a resolution like the one that we have before you tonight, containing findings meeting two requirements: that it considered student safety and that the board minimize the number of sites. And part of this is a function of timing. Under the regulations, the resolution must be adopted before issuance of the preliminary offer, which is February 1st. So we are bringing it to you tonight. Staff has been working hard on putting together a preliminary offer to be delivered to SPA tomorrow. I will say that that preliminary offer actually will only involve one site. However, because we have a legal deadline and because the process involves back and forth with the community, some of the identified site or sites and the charter school, the staff wanted and council wanted to leave open the possibility of locating them on more than one site. And since the regulations have a deadline, we're bringing this to you tonight. So this gives staff the flexibility, if circumstances warrant, to make an offer to SPA, which you will get to see in March as the final offer on more than one site. SPA, as you might know, serves both middle school and high school students. So there's not an opportunity, for example, to perhaps place them at a middle school and high school site. And the resolution essentially calls for considering where most of SPA's students reside in terms of school attendance areas. And if SPA is placed on more than one site, to have those sites within those attendance areas to minimize the travel involved. And that's to consider in consideration of student safety. I did want to clarify one thing about the resolution that may seem incongruous. There's an attachment to the resolution that contains information about the capacity of middle schools in the district. And the resolution is from actually the district's facilities master plan from 2007, 2008, and that's the date on the attachment. So it seems incongruous. It appears that we might be citing outdated information, but I wanted to assure the board that we're actually not. The education code and regulations have a formula for defining capacity, and it's essentially tied to how many students the site is designed to hold, and not so much tied to contemporary circumstances or conditions, which we certainly take into account. But being aligned with the legal definition, we cite back to the work that was done as a facilities master plan that was issued in 2007 and 2008. So be assured we're not relying upon outdated information, but we are relying upon information that is in alignment with the education code and regulations. So I'll return it to Dr. Clark for any questions or comments from the board. Thank you.
Is there a motion?
I move to approve resolution 2324-47, supporting a preliminary offer of facilities to School of Performing Arts Charter School for 2024-25 school year.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. That's a motion from trustee Nsewi and a second from trustee Count. Trustee Barrios?
Yes.
That motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member.
Thank you, Mr. Ye. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, and so that should move us to 11.1. Dr. Rubio.
We have Dr. Rubio, who is going to present this very exciting item. And we have 11.1. Dr. Rubio.
Thank you, board members. It's my pleasure tonight to bring to you for your review and potential approval the employment agreement and appointment of Suzanne Sturecki Kim as General Counsel. Ms. Sturecki Kim earned her Bachelor's of Arts degree from the University of California at Berkeley with honors, and her Doctoral of Law from the University of California College of Law, formerly known as Hastings. She is a daughter of refugees and an immigrant herself, and she has also worked as an AmeriCorps member in schools, where she pursued a career in law with the goal of improving public schools. Ms. Sturecki Kim has significant experience representing public school districts, and she has spent the last 7 or 8 years with the San Francisco Unified School District serving as Senior Deputy General Counsel. She's provided advice to council on many important items, such as negotiating agreements for educator housing, as well as new school construction. And Ms. Sturecki Kim is also a lecturer at San Francisco State in the Department of Equity, Leadership Studies, and Instructional Technology. In accordance with Government Code Section 54953, to summarize, this item seeks approval for an employment agreement for the position of General Counsel effective February 28, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. On range 48, step 9 of DMA salary management schedule with a salary of $238,062, where the position is entitled to the benefits of the management employees in our district. And with that, I leave it in your hands.
Madam President, I move to approve the employment agreement of Suzanne Sturecki Kim as General Counsel.
Second.
That's a motion from trustee Count and a second from trustee Mayo. Trustee Barrios, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right, we did that quickly. Welcome. And did you bring your family?
I did bring my family. They're sitting over there. My husband, Moonhawk, my son Avi, and my son Xander. And thank you so much. I was raised as an immigrant and in a household where education was constantly said to us. I grew up valuing public education. And I've been watching your board meetings actually and watching Dr. Clark. And that is why I'm here and I'm super excited. And it will be an honor and a privilege. I think today's board meeting with the focus on cell phones, I would love to have that happen at my kids' schools. Both of them were kind of cringing over there, but I'm like, let's just do it like right now. And so I'm just so impressed with this board and where the school district is heading and excited to be here. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Of course, you guys can escape now. I know those, especially we got a
School night.
I know we got a Marimani Matador there, right? And so I know he has homework. Yeah, yeah. And are we a water polo player? Okay. All right. Good. Good. All right.
All right, so that should move us to board member reports. Would anyone like to go first? No volunteers. Trustee Karen.
Sure. Not a lot to report. Just some really fun things that I attended recently. I got to go to the Gregory Gardens Heritage Night, which was just a beautiful like potluck with so much amazing food from so many different cultures and a fashion show of students with their clothing from all different cultures. And then it just so happens that I'm in this taiko drumming group that was scheduled to perform there. So I got to also perform on the stage and do taiko drumming with students at the school site as well. So it was a fun night all around. And then other fun things, I got to go to the Folsom Jazz Festival last weekend, where both Northgate and Concord High became finalists amongst a long list of schools. And everyone performed really, really well. Very exciting. And what else? The other two more fun things, the East Bay Leadership Council event with John Quinones, where we had a number of our journalism students. I want to say thank you to Teresa Brandt for your leadership and mentoring of students from so many different schools to be able to attend that event and have one-on-one FaceTime with him and be able to ask the questions that they did. We were the only school district that had students at that event, so it was a really special opportunity for them, I think. And then I enjoyed the State Teacher of the Year, being able to celebrate our amazing Mr. Alvarico from Ignacio Valley High School, the only State Teacher of the Year from Northern California this year. And he gave an amazing speech that we need to share because every time he gives a speech, it just it enlightens something else, I think, about what is so important in our schools and how we interact with our students and build those relationships. So look for that. And then on the serious note, I went represented us on the class size reduction exploratory committee that met to evaluate consultants and recommend one to the board. So information will be coming to the whole board on that. And I just really appreciate that committee because it has representation from a lot of different aspects of our community, including parents as well, which is great to see. And then attended the DLAC meeting with a few other school board members. And that was fun to hear from Angela Freitag from the city of Concord, spoke about the wonderful summer youth programs that are offered to Concord residents. And for those who qualify, you can get really, really discounted rates. So it's an awesome opportunity for our kids. And then thank you to Nicole Nakasato, who enrollment coordinator for student services, who presented at DLAC on the kindergarten registration. There was a question about the hours the office is open, and a suggestion to include on the flyer what time they are closed for lunch, so that before families travel to get there, that they know when it's open. And lastly, I'm just excited for the Mount Diablo Education Foundation has a bocce tournament coming up. So for any of you who play bocce or don't play bocce, you don't have to know what you're doing to join. But May 11th is the bocce tournament that's going to benefit Mount Diablo Education Foundation, STEAM in our schools. So it's a great opportunity to either join a team and play, or for companies out there to be able to really showcase their businesses and how they support our schools as well. See mdedf.org/events for details.
All right, thank you. Trustee Barros, do you have a report this evening?
Yeah, so I went to visit Olympic during while the congressman was there, and it was pretty cool. Mostly everyone doing their work, and they're actually learning important stuff that they need to know for like adult stuff. And I also saw the section in the school. I think it's called Crossroads, I'm so sorry. Which was really cool, and seeing the little kids are so cute. And then I'm like, oh, parents drop them off so that they can go somewhere else. And then I learned that they're actually the students' kids. I'm like, oh wow, that's really cool. That's such a good like program that's very needed, so parents can still go study and get their education. Also, with the Yonder pouches, I was amazed because I was like, oh, what does it look like? What did they do? And then on the tour, we were able to like see one and get other students' opinions. And at school in YV during advisory period, I think it was Tuesday, we saw a video about um phone addiction and like what it does to your mental health and like how it causes a lot of problems. And me and my friend did this challenge where we're not going to do it. We're not going to use our phones for the rest of the school day. And during my econ class, the teacher's like, okay, pull out your book and read. And immediately I went to reach for my phone to watch TikTok. Oh my gosh. I'm like, it's gone too far. I need to stop this addiction. So that's why I think Yonder pouches would be a very good idea for class. And I did actually read instead of be on my phone. Miraculously. Anyways, for we're student advisory committee, we've been having meetings, we've been talking about things such like grades, school facilities, and colleges. It's been pretty fun. Everyone there is really nice, and we're sharing our experiences like applying for college because one of our members is a sophomore and they're kind of getting nervous. I'm like, oh no, like, because we're all here for each other. So it's pretty good to have that community. And we have a meeting next week. And that's it.
Trustee Nzewi, do you have a report this evening?
Very brief. Thank you to the Miss Enlow and Sequoia Middle School 7th grade core for having me today. Tell them what it's like. No, well, the topic was leadership, and I'll let this board know that one of the main the first thing that came out of several students' mouth is they want a basketball team, a football team, and a soccer team. So I said, oh, middle school sports is what you're talking about. And we talked about like the decision making and how decisions are really hard. And as a leader, how it's hard, but that wasn't on me. So I also said that because I wasn't here for that decision. But that we talked about all the ways that people can show up as leaders, that a leader isn't necessarily the one that's rah out in front. I especially pointed out to the shy students because I am actually extremely shy. I am very awkward with like one-on-one with new people. So if you've ever met me, anyone who's in here or watching, I am very awkward and I'm not mean. I just don't know what to do when you come up to me and say hello. But giving examples of ways that we are leaders, even as them as children, even them younger, without having to be out in front as leaders, that quiet leadership is just as valuable. So that was a great way to spend my midday today. The only other thing I want to say is that I really hope that as we embark upon Black History Month tomorrow, and for the next 29 days this year, it's a leap year, that I hope for really good things. I hope for intentional celebration on our school campuses. I hope for celebrations that don't just focus on the trauma of Black history in our American history. I myself reflected and learned a new perspective last week as well, which it was around acknowledging and understanding how much the history that we learn about the most common figures, like, so we may think we know everything about Martin Luther King or Rosa Parks or Frederick Douglass or whomever we lean heavily into during this month to teach. And when in fact we know very little, we're taught very little because we receive a whitewashed history. So students this month may learn the I Have a Dream speech and thinking that that's like the pinnacle of Dr. Martin Luther King, when that's not, when that he was actually a very radical man, and especially towards his his life being cut short, that, it was the night before a huge labor rally with the sanitation workers, that he was an anti-war activist, that those are the things we don't learn as children here. That well, I remember, I know that this isn't true now, but I remember learning about Rosa Parks that she was just tired, and that's not true. Like, she's got on that bus on purpose to not stand up that day. And so I would like, as even when we lean into these traditional historical figures, that I hope that our educators can dig deeper into what we teach our students. And I'll be honest, I just hope that it's a really safe and good month for students and families in this district. So.
Trustee Mason?
I will be short as well. I actually had a delightful visit with both Congressman DeSaulnier, who I've known since he was Supervisor DeSaulnier, and also with our student board member. We had a lot of laughs, a lot of fun. They both, I think, were very proud of our schools like I was. He really seemed to enjoy it. I went to Westwood. They had a family literacy night, and I'm sure our chair will talk about that a little bit, but I'm continue to be really impressed, Dr. Clark. Every time I go to school, there are tons of parents out. It's very, very nice to see. The parents are really stepping up this year. And the DLAC meeting, which talking about parents stepping up, they run such a well-ran meeting on time, stick to the agenda, and so that was a good meeting as well. And that's pretty much it for me.
Trustee Mayo?
Thank you. I attended many of the same meetings that the rest of you have attended. One meeting that I participated online or observed, it was a webinar. It was done by CSBA on January 23rd. and it was about crisis-ready school communications. It was about a half an hour webinar, and I would suggest that parents and/or board members and administrators, teachers review it, because it prompted me to think about school crises in a different way and how to best to communicate information to our families and working with students. So I found it very insightful. The meetings with Congressman DeSaulnier are always wonderful and engaging. He has a way of just connecting with people when he visits with them. He knew how to interact with the children. He knew how to bring out conversations from adults. You can tell he was in the hospitality industry is probably part of it. And he is genuinely interested in what's going on in the moment. And his staff has a difficult time pulling him away from our schools in particular. So I want to applaud both Olympic and Fair Oaks for welcoming him to their campuses, and also for the presentations that were made. Of course, he got down on his knees and dug in the dirt with the students, but they enjoyed it and he did as well. So the California Teacher of the Year ceremony was amazing. We are so blessed to have Joseph Alvarico as our Teacher of the Year. And I want to call out, normally we don't call out sponsors, but I want to call out Travis Credit Union for sponsoring 3 students' participation at this particular event, so they could be there to honor him, as well as to be applauded by the entire audience of the who were there for the dinner that night. And they were the only students that I saw there traveling with the Teachers of the Year. And I think they were very proud. You could just see it in their eyes as they were listening to the comments about him. And they were also proud to stand tall beside him. Also, I'll mention that Rosie Reed and Tom Trowbridge were there, as well as Dr. Clark and 3 of our board members. And another teacher, past California Teacher of the Year, Mary Allen, who was from Antioch School District, who I've known for many years and is respected throughout the county, was also there at the event. Some people will know her name. This morning we went, Dr. Clark and I went to the Pleasant Hill Chamber breakfast, and of course there was the chamber report. The Pleasant Hill Rec and Park provided a report, and then the newly elected mayor, Matt Wren, did a State of the City report along with his infamous selfies and a few jokes sprinkled throughout his presentation. I want to remind you that on Monday, February 5th, there's the virtual Contra Costa School Boards Association meeting on the budget at 6 p.m. If you're able to attend, you'll receive another reminder on Monday. And I also too want to compliment Westwood for their engaging family literacy night. The more we can bring parents into our schools, the better our students will perform. And that was great. And I look forward to having Dr. Clark share other things about these exciting events that we've had in the last 2 weeks.
All right, those were excellent reports this evening. Mine will be very brief, and I'll just mention kind of my experience of being at some similar events. So last Tuesday, I was able to attend Westwood's Family Literacy Night, and Ms. Klinkner, who is the principal there, told me that that every class got to vote on which book they'd like to receive, and so every student received a book, and I thought that was wonderful, and that there was so much student choice involved. I was particularly floored by the attendance, since I spend the majority of my time on a high school campus, and we have something like 1,500 students. I just was remembering kind of what the enrollment is at Westwood, and then just kind of seeing how many people showed up, like proportionate to the enrollment, was really, really impressive. And so it was very clearly a lot of effort went into that, planning that night and running it. It was wonderful to see the community turn out like they did. And then I also was very glad to attend the California Teacher of the Year celebration. And I'm just as Trustee Nzegui was speaking about different styles of leadership, I was really thinking about Mr. Alvarico, and I was so glad, on Monday night to be kind of in his cheering section. And I was just realizing he's just really a man who brings a cheering section, I assume, everywhere he goes. Every time I see him, he has a group of students and supporters, when he was originally here with us, when he was at the county celebration, and then at the Teacher of the Year, the California Teacher of the Year celebration. And so I'm just really impressed by kind of how collaboratively he works with his students. And I'm sure that they cheer him on because he cheers them on. So I'm just very impressed by him. And it was, it was a very worthwhile night, and enjoyed it very much. I'm just very proud. And that's the end of my report. Dr. Clark, do you have anything that you'd like to share this evening?
Thank you for asking. I believe I have a PowerPoint. Great, thank you. I think our LCAP goals are something that, that really guide us and really focus our work. And I know that we're getting ready to go through the process of updating our LCAP for next year. So I just want to ensure and make sure everyone understands how important they are and that we do follow them and that we are striving to meet them. And again, with our CCEE partnership, this is our triangle with equity, opportunity, and unity around social emotional learning, educational equity, and learning acceleration. I want to talk about the Teacher of the Years real quick. These are the 5 Teachers of the Year. And of course, Mr. Alvarico is just a total rock star. He is awesome. It was the first time that I really got to hear him formally speak, and just did a tremendous speech that really just honed in a very special message around students. And we are going to be sharing that speech, I believe, in the Friday letter. It will be in there. We have the transcript and whatnot, so everyone can read that. But these are the 5 Teachers of the Year from the state, and with our state superintendent in the middle, Tony Thurman. But I just want to take a moment and just talk about each one of these teachers, about their message, because although we were all there to see Mr. Alvarico, the other 4 had so much to contribute to the night. And there was a common theme amongst all 5 of them, and that was their students. So I am in this business for students, and whenever I can engage with students or see the work of our students, I get nothing but happiness from that, and just a sense of accomplishment. The gentleman on the left is from Southern California. He is an English teacher, and he actually shared an important story about himself, that he had bone cancer as a kid and really had a rough time growing up, but the students at his school, under the direction of a teacher, really brought him through. Then of course we have Mr. Alvarico, we have Mr. Thurman. The next gentleman is a music teacher at a magnet school in LA. He's a high school music teacher, and he talked about his students coming to him with no formal background in music. And after just a few weeks, he shared stories of his students being able to read music and understand, and just showing the videos and hearing the students talk about how he impacted their lives was completely incredible. And the tearjerker of the night, I'm definitely not ashamed to say that I cried when she spoke. She is a preschool teacher who works with nonverbal autistic students, and was talking about the medical challenges of the students, and just her mission is to serve those students and serve those families, and it was incredible. And then the last gentleman is a social science teacher, and just the way that he engages with his students and what he brings out of his students was just absolutely incredible. So, I had this evening where I heard these 5 incredible speakers just talk nothing more than about how wonderful their students are and what was taking place at their schools, that I couldn't help but just to dig into our archives and see what is going on in the Mount Diablo Unified School District. And I decided to tie it with our LCAP goals. So what you have here is a second grade teacher, not the 2 pictures. That's actually the student on the left is a second grade student and the student on the right is a 3rd grade student. And what this particular teacher does is she brings students from her past classes to come and talk to their current students about what they're going to see next. And so I pulled out that safe and welcoming environment, because changing grades, changing schools, changing grade levels can be a scary thing. And this is something that one of our teachers has done with the use of students to make that safe and welcoming for all. And so just really wanted to highlight that. We talk about a high quality education. This is our spelling bee winner from Walnut Acres. And I think you can see the excitement on his face. And actually, if you look at the picture on the stage, you can spot him out on the stage, and that smile has not left him. And so this is from the Scripps Spelling Bee at Walnut Acres, and just there's nothing but just pure excitement on each one of those students' faces to actually, like, we all think of spelling tests and things like that, but here there's that excitement around learning. So I kind of put that with goal 1 is that high quality education. If we can make spelling fun, I mean, geez, that is, we're heading in the right direction. Then this is probably one of my favorite pictures, providing engaging instruction. So what this is, if you look closely, these are 4 drinks, and those are sugar cubes next to the drinks. So they're showing these young students like how much sugar is in these drinks that students may not realize, and their parents may not even realize, their friends may not realize, and they're drinking these drinks. But I guarantee you, because of this engaging instruction, these students have a firm understanding of how much sugar is in the drinks. And so when they look at the labels and see 26 grams of sugar, these young ones know. And so I just, again, stuff like this just really warms my heart to see that hands-on learning. When we talk about culturally proficient, it's not a hard concept. You just celebrate everybody. So here is an event where individuals were able to come to school at night and celebrate their heritage. And if you look closely, I mean, I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but if you look over on the left there on that picture, you can see one of our trustees, I believe, who is participating in this fine evening. But like, how much pride and how much excitement, like you can just see the smile on each of these students and along with their parents' faces. And we have this family here on the right, this mom and her son. And this is how we become culturally proficient. We learn about other cultures, right? And we celebrate that instead of like being forced to do it or do it begrudgingly or something. But this is how we get there. This is a picture of middle school students, and I know middle schools, it's hard. It's in between elementary and high school, and middle school students are often misunderstood, but we still need to have high expectations for our middle schoolers. These are honor roll certificates that our students over at Pine Hollow earned. And if you look closely at their faces, and this is why we do this work, we do it for our students. They are happy, they are excited, they are supporting one another, and they are proud about their achievements. So this is when we have equitable high expectations. Even though middle school kids are a little bit energetic and a little rambunctious, we still got to have those high expectations for them and celebrate it. And so here they are getting their honor roll certificates and very happy about that. As we make sure that our students are ready for college and career, this is Sequoia on the left, and I believe it's some sort of career fair, science fair, whatnot. But this young student is ready, right? Like he is ready. And then over on the right here, we have our technology. Those students are learning fractions in the class. If you look at this picture and you see the writing that the teacher has on her Promethean board, she can save that and also put a picture on it and have the students touch it and interact with it. So it's just It's what we're doing as a district to prepare our students for college and career. This is the picture on the left is the library at Mount Diablo High School. I know we had heard previously like that didn't exist and things like that, but it looks like it exists to me, and it looks absolutely beautiful. So this is what our we have a set of counselors, Spanish-speaking counselors who really want to provide a service to some of our Spanish-speaking families and just really engage with them in a comfortable environment around school and how they can support their students. And if you see, when we talk about engaged partners with our parents, look at that layout that our parents have. Those roses for our parents, those are flowers that our counselors are giving our parents, just appreciating them. You know, just couldn't be more proud about that. There's all kinds of pictures that were shared from this event where you just have that pride and that connection with these families who are coming to our schools, and it's how we accept them, right? And so here, you know, you have the Mount Diablo High School library just set up so beautiful with the furniture and the everything is just ready for our parents. And then you can just see some of the documents on the right, you know, the book, the sign-in sheets and things like that, just all done with such care and just pride for our families. We have, you know, again, when you talk about community engagement and keeping informed, we have a, you know, a bike to school club or community partnership taking place over at Pleasant Hill Elementary School, led by none other but our principal, who I was surprised when he rides his bike to like professional development opportunities and things like that on the other side of town and in Concord and things like that. But here they are, you know, working to not only promote physical health amongst their students, but also to work with the community to get cars off the street and to really promote biking to and from work, school, and whatnot. So, so just exciting stuff. Here you have, you know, our to kind of meet our goal 4. Here is a flyer for our Focal Scholar Program. High expectations, equal access to educational opportunities. On February 8th, we're going to be having our African American Parent Advisory Council and College and Career Night here in this room. And so that's a, you know, that's an invitation out to all. I just wanted to share, since I brought up goal number 4, this is just an update on our Focal Scholars, on the students who participated in that program. So they increased attendance by 10%, or their goal was to reach a 90% attendance rate. And so that's something that they've worked on and achieved. Regional African American Parent Advisory Committees to increase family access and input. So they used to just hold the meetings in one part of our district, and now they're moving to more regional so they can try to get participation from more families. They decrease suspension rates by the of our Focal Scholars. We also, in our dashboard, you know, we brought up a red category, and we're getting into the green and blue in the dashboard ratings when it comes to suspensions. There's been growth in our reading. We're updating our practices, policies, and procedures, and we're increasing our school connectedness by 5% with our Focal Scholars. So again, that's that 4th goal within our LCAP, and we have those student groups that have historically, you know, been underserved in our district that we're really working hard to close that gap. So anyway, just after being just so inspired by the 5 most amazing teachers in the state and being able to put a feather in our cap that one of those, you know, is in our district, and I know we have other hidden gems out in our district, and we are right now, Ms. Sachs, we are collecting information for our Teacher of the Year, right? Or is that application closed now? It's just closed, so we'll be convening a team to look for the next teacher to move forward in that process. So again, thank you, President McFerrin, for allowing me to write on your president's report, and again, just a lot of amazing things, and I couldn't be more proud of our Olympic school tonight, the work that they're doing. You know, I think it goes without saying, my philosophy is that you know, we want to support our students in any environment possible, and so when when the congressman's office called and was looking for an exemplary school to go and visit, of course, I nominated Olympic as being one of those schools, and I thank the trustees and student trustee Barrios for being there in my absence to help be a good tour guide for the congressman, so he can go and share all the great things that are taking place in the Mount Diablo Unified School District under your great leadership. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. It was a very uplifting presentation. All right.
They're the ones doing all this work, so I mean, like, we should celebrate that. So that clap is for you all as well.
All right, that brings us to 14.0, the consent agenda. Are there any items that anyone would like to pull for discussion? Or
I'll make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
okay, thank you. That's a motion by trustee Mason and a second by trustee Mayo. Trustee Barrios,
Yes.
okay, and so that motion passes 5-0 with concurrence from our student board member. And so that moves us to 17.1. This is an information item. Dr. Clark.
This is just info only. This is just these are just updates to our board policies. So it's just info only, and we'll be bringing these back at a later meeting for and ask for consideration of approval.
So this is just kind of some light reading. Any questions or comments at this time?
I just wanted to appreciate the part that allows bike safety instruction to take place on our school campuses. So since we were just celebrating our Pleasant Hill Elementary bike to school group, I think it's fantastic that that's one of the edits to our board policy.
All right, great. So it looks like we don't need a meeting extension. There are no items carried over from closed session. Any kind of future agenda items suggested? Any further comments? Okay, so then I will adjourn this meeting.